Hi, this is David McCann for WebTNG. In this video, I'm looking at Stackable Blocks, specifically the new version 3 that was just released. Stackable was one of the first Gutenberg add-ons. They appeared in the WordPress plugin directory even before Gutenberg was added to core. Since that time, the Stackable team has regularly released updates and fixes to keep up with changes in WordPress and to respond and implement the suggestions of their users. Version 3 is the biggest update yet, and it brings some exciting new features, especially in relation to dynamic data. In this video, I'm going to do two things. First, we'll have an overview of Stackable, and second, we'll take a look at the dynamic data options. I have a test site here using the Blocksy Pro theme. You can see that here I have some demo posts and they have different categories. And I also have a custom post type called books. And here is a default book archive. If we take a look at the plugins, you can see I have Stackable version 3, the Pro version, installed. The Stackable settings pages are in the admin under settings, and there are several tabs. On this Getting Started tab, we have some overview information, some help information, and some access to support. The settings page is the one that most people will want to take a look at. Here they're asking you to leave a review on WordPress.org, but you have the option to turn that off. If you have Font Awesome Pro, you can add in your code to enable that on the site and have Font Awesome Pro integrated with Stackable. There are editor settings. Here this adds a button on the top of the Gutenberg editor. You can set the maximum width for Stackable Blocks or leave it blank for Stackable to use your theme settings. You can auto-collapse panels so that when you open one, the others close. And there's the option for block linking, which is to link columns together. And then there's the Role Manager, which is a pro feature to limit editing access. Stackable in version 3 is offering its own custom field solution, and we'll take a look at that, and that is also a pro feature. Here you can tweak the breakpoints if you need to. You can force typography styles if they're not coming in correctly for your theme. And then there are three categories of blocks. There's essential blocks like buttons and headings and icon, text, columns, list. There are special blocks like accordion, social buttons, cards, video pop-up. And then there are section blocks, and we'll take a look at these because Stackable has put these more sophisticated blocks together in an interesting way. They're like composite blocks, and that gives you some flexibility that's interesting. You have options for optimizing version 2 settings, for enabling or disabling version 2 blocks. So you might need these if you started a site on version 2 and are upgrading to version 3. And then there are some settings. They have an option in the editor sometimes to show you some little video snippets. And then, as I mentioned, if you're migrating from version 2 to version 3, then some of these settings here may apply. This is where you enter your license information. This is a link to documentation and to contact. And this is the custom fields user interface, which we'll come back and look at later on. Okay, let's go into the Gutenberg editor. Going to add a new page. We'll call it Stackable Testing, and I'm going to save this just so we can come back to this point. Now, here's the design library. Stackable Pro comes with 10 UI kits, and what these are, for instance, a UI kit has a number of sections in it, and they're all themed and styled together so that they complement each other. And the free version of Stackable comes with 4 and the Pro version comes with 10 UI kits. Then over here we have some stackable settings. And note that this is pulling in the color palette from the Blocksy theme. So that's cool. If you wanted to use just stackable colors in Gutenberg, then you could disable this and create a stackable color palette. And then there's the options for your global typography. Those are the Gutenberg options for stackable. Now, these are the blocks here. And thank goodness they put them in alphabetical order. If you know the name of the block, it makes it easier to pick it from this list. I think there are 34 blocks. And one of the interesting things about Stackable is that the free version includes all of these blocks. What's different are the extras. Some of the extras are things like the role manager that are separate from the blocks, but also some of the blocks have additional pro features. What I want to do is start by looking at one of the core blocks. And this way we can have a comparison and see what Stackable is bringing to the table. Core block, you have some font size options, and you have color options, and you have the option to add a CSS class or create an HTML anchor. So that's what you have with the core heading block. Now let's add a stackable heading block. Here it is here. And let's look at some of the differences. Okay, right off, just hovering the mouse over here, look, you can adjust the padding there. This feature here, this lets you copy and paste styles between blocks. So that's a cool feature. And then there is a dynamic data option to pull in dynamic fields. You can do that here from the block toolbar or from over here in the settings panel. Okay, you can pull in from the current post, okay, or from other posts from the site or from latest posts. And then you have options here. And these are the kinds of things you've probably seen with page builders. Right? We have post options, we have author options, comment options, media options, and then detected custom fields. Okay? And these are actually custom fields from the book's custom post type, some ACF fields. If we choose site, then, for example, there's the tagline, the title, or site URL. You do have the option for dynamic data, and this exists on a number of those essential blocks, kind of the core building blocks. If we look over on the settings panel, all the blocks have 3 tabs. There's a blocks tab, a style tab, and an advanced tab. And I actually want to start with the advanced tab because most of the blocks have this similar or the same advanced tab. And this is one of the places where we see some of the advanced features of Stackable. So you can change the HTML tag, handle overflow, clear, floats. You can set opacity, z-index, and absolutely set position. You can add transforms and transitions and set the time and the angles of entry or travel and where the transform or transition starts. It's the kind of thing you don't see in Core, but that you do see in some page builders. There are motion effects, entrance animations, or scroll animations. When you turn those on, you have animation effects there. You can add a custom attribute if, for example, you're using a third-party library that needs that, or you're doing some custom JavaScript programming. This can be very useful. You can add custom CSS to the block, and they give you the CSS target right here. And one nice thing about adding your CSS here is it applies just to this page, whereas if you put it in the theme customizer, then this style would load everywhere. You can hide by device size, And now here's a really powerful feature. You can include some conditional displays to show or hide your block. And they have a number of display rule options based on login status, on the user role, the date and time, custom PHP. I mean, you can do pretty much anything you're able to program. Conditional tags, query string, post meta, site options, depending on the post ID, the post type, or the taxonomy. So you could have blocks show up depending on the post type or the taxonomy. And then advanced option like we've seen with the core blocks. Okay, so these advanced features, these are all the blocks have this set or pretty close to this set of advanced features. So they're standard. You figure out how to use these once and you can use them on all of your blocks. Then they have a block tab and a style tab, and this might change depending on the block and the elements of the block and the type of block. Here are alignment options. You can change that by device size. You have background options for color, gradient, for an image or video. You have size and spacing options, alignment options, content width options, padding and margin. And then you have border and shadow options. Under Style for the heading block, we have the option to change the dynamic field or clear it, to remove extra text margins if you want to set those manually. Choose the heading level, typography options, font size by device size, color or gradient, top line or bottom line. So that's kind of a little stylish option there. So this gives you an idea of the difference between the core block and the stackable blocks. Okay, now let's look at one of those section blocks. So let's add a new block here. Go down to stackable. Let's try this card block. And note that for some of the blocks, especially section type blocks, they give us some kind of pre-designed options here. So let's pick one. Okay, and some of the things I wanted to show you about these are that this is composed. Let's go and look at the list view. See how here's the card, and this functions as a container, similar to as it would be if we constructed this ourselves. See, we have container background, container size and spacing, container borders and shadow. And then in addition to the image, it has a heading block, a subtitle block, a text block, and a button group. Okay, and this is totally editable. Let's say we don't want the button group. Okay, and it's gone. If we wanted to add a new block to the card, we could do that right here. For example, suppose we add 2 columns and we add some more images. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could put a heading here, and we could say team members or whatever. Okay, so I thought this was an interesting way they went about creating these more sophisticated, advanced blocks by kind of building their own composite blocks. Let's remove some of these things, and let's go and start taking a look at some of the dynamic data options. A common feature of most block sets is a posts block, and Stackable, like all the others, has a post block. Again, notice how we have some variations of layouts that it's already designed. So let's take this one for instance. And so one of the features that most third-party posts blocks has is the option to pick a post type. So this is a dynamic data feature. It's not unique to Stackable. Let's set our columns to 1. Okay, so here we have kind of that easy. We've created what could be, like an archive type layout for our custom post type. Now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, gee, I'd rather have the featured image on the left. And there wasn't any option when we looked at, let's go back, let's remove this. And if we look at the pre-designed layouts, there wasn't an option for the image to be on the other side. What can we do? Well, here's a cool way you can use the dynamic data features of Stackable. WordPress 5.8 shipped with a query loop block. So let's use that together with the Stackable blocks. I'm going to start blank and let's go this image, date, and title option. I'm going to change the post type to books. Now I'm going to go into here and let's add a column, 2 columns. Okay, I'm gonna drag the book into this one. And then in this column over here, I'm going to add the title and I'll add the date. Okay, and now I'm going to add a stackable text and let's choose the post excerpt. Awesome. Okay, now under this, let's add 2 columns. On this one, we'll add a button and we'll say read more. And then we'll go over here for our link, dynamic data option, and we'll choose post URL. And then over here, let's add an image field. And for the dynamic data option, let's choose the advanced custom field, author's photo. All right, and let's set the height and width to 100 pixels, height and width, so it's square. And we can align this left aligned. Okay, now let's update that and take a preview and see where things look. You can see that we have been able to create a pretty sophisticated custom archive here using Stackable and the core query loop block. Let's go in and tweak this just a little bit. Let's take this image. Let's actually go to the column and let's align text center. So this is actually the core post featured image block and it doesn't have many options. So let's try adding the stackable image block in here. And let's go to the media featured image URL. Okay, awesome. And now we can set the height and width here. Let's set the height at 250 pixels and the width at 170. So that looks pretty good. And now let's remove this core block. And now let's click on the columns here and let's give it a light gray background. So let's go and preview this again. And there is our custom archive. We have a custom field showing using stackable blocks and the core query loop block. So that's kind of a cool thing that adds a lot of flexibility when using Stackable. All right, let's keep going. Now, how about under this block, we add an icon. Our icon, let's see what our icon is going to be. Let's go and pick one. Do we have dragon? Here's dragon, okay? Okay, so here's our dragon. Now let's go over to the advanced tab, conditional display, and add a condition. And we'll say when post taxonomy for books, genres, included in fantasy, then we want it to show. Okay, so let's update this And let's go and preview it. Okay, here our icon is not showing on the legal thrillers, but here it's showing on the fantasy. Okay, so there's an example of the conditional display option and how easy that was. We've looked at several of the dynamic data features. Now I want to go out of this and let's look at the last thing that I want to show you, the custom fields option, which is actually this link here. See, so when we go to it, we actually go here. All right, so if we let's add a field and let's see what options we have here. We have field types of text, number, date, time, and URL. Other custom field offerings like advanced custom fields, of course, have a lot more options available there in terms of field type. So this is a basic convenience type thing. I think that this would be useful for situations, for example, for site-wide settings. Advanced Custom Fields Pro and MetaBox, for instance, give you options to add a settings page so that you can have site-wide settings. And so I think that would be a good use for this kind of feature. So in the text feature, I'll call this site hours, and it fills in the slug. You can tweak it if you want to. And then website support hours, and we'll save the field. Okay, and we'll add one more field, and this one will be a URL field, and we'll call this site phone number, website support phone number. Okay, and then we've added the fields and saved those, but we need to save our changes. So now under site hours, I'll type Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And under site phone number, I'll type tell and put in a phone number and save changes. Now let's go to our pages and add a new one. And we'll say contact info. Let's add columns. And this one we will add a heading. This will be site support hours. And we'll add a text here, and we'll go into our custom fields. And now we're going to go to site. And here are our site hours. All right, so on our site hours, okay, we'll go here and we'll set the hours to bold. Go to typography and we'll increase the size a bit. Let's go to site settings here and let's decrease that. And okay, now over here we'll add our heading. And now let's add another text element. We'll pick site, and the field will be site phone number, and we'll show it as a link. And apply. Okay, there's our description. And let's adjust the typography of that. And then adjust this up some so it matches. And we'll make that bold as well. Okay, so let's publish that. And let's go and view the page. Okay, and there's our link. And I can see that it says TEL and the colon and the phone number. So if you were on a mobile phone, that would be a clickable phone number. And so that's how we can use the custom field feature in Stackable to do something like add some site-wide settings. So it's been the overview look at Stackable version 3 and a look at the dynamic data options. Now let's have some discussion and conclusions. Gutenberg was merged into WordPress core almost 3 years ago. Now we are seeing the introduction of full site editing. Full site editing, we will be able to create templates for post types and archives using the block editor. It is now time to bring dynamic data options to the Gutenberg editor, and Stackable Blocks is one of a handful of Gutenberg add-ons, making the leap to the next stage of WordPress theme and theme building. We looked at the settings options available. Stackable has the option to disable blocks you don't plan to use. We looked at several of the blocks and saw that they offer many design options beyond what you find in Core. We also looked at one of the section or composite blocks and saw the clever way Stackable created these advanced groupings of blocks. These composite blocks will appeal to some people who embrace the flexibility they offer, but that approach might not appeal to everyone. Be that as it may, I think many site builders will be happy with the advanced style options and features. We saw that the essential blocks have dynamic data options. Access to dynamic data includes an array of fields, such as standard post, author, and site data, as well as custom fields. Stackable Pro supports advanced custom fields, and we were able to add an ACF image to our custom listing. It should be noted that support for toolset custom fields is available in the free version of Stackable Blocks. The Stackable Post block supports custom post types, and we saw how we were able to use the Stackable Blocks together with the core query loop block to create a custom listing for a custom post type. I thought that was very cool. We also demoed Stackable's conditional display feature. It is pretty extensive, and it's another powerful tool that version 3 brings. Version 3 of Stackable Blocks adds its own custom fields implementation. It's basic compared to the likes of ACF Metabox Pods or Toolset, but it could be useful for simple use cases, such as adding some site-wide settings. I mentioned in the introduction that version 3 was just released. Version 3 was a rewrite, and I admire the Stackable team's willingness and commitment to keep the plugin current. However, I would be cautious about rolling this out as soon as it is released. Since it's new, there could be bugs, and it may be wise to wait until there is a chance for feedback and bug fixes, especially if you have version 2 content on the site. I had hoped to see the ability to create single and archive templates for custom post types. However, many vendors are waiting for full site editing to be released before supporting this, as they don't want to have to change it when now those features are so close to being available in Core. Version 3 of Stackable Blocks is a significant upgrade over version 2. I like what the team has done, especially with the addition and extensions to dynamic data options. Stackable will be a strong option for site builders and looks like it will pair well with full site editing when that is released in the next version of WordPress. So that's a look at the new version 3 of Stackable Blocks. There's a text version of the video available on the WebTNG website, along with other walkthroughs, reviews, and resources. I hope you found the video useful. Thank you for watching.